Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is John with Good Burgers Reviews, and today we're going to have a special presentation. Today we're going to discuss the top 25 most influential movies in horror. So let me just get a couple things cleared up on what this video is going to be about and what do I mean by influential and what movies might make the list, what movies might not make the list, and so forth. So for example, there's going to be some movies that might be considered horror adjacent because I feel like some of these movies that are on the list definitely influenced the genre as a whole, but some people don't always consider them horror, and they are in that borderline category where they might be an action or maybe more of a creature feature, which I feel like creature features are horror. It's just some creature features lean more into the action and the drama. And even though a list like this can seem fairly objective, to me it's still a subjective opinion. These are my opinions. These are the movies I believe have influenced our culture or influenced the genres as a whole. And I will provide some backup reasonings as to why, or things that I think of, well, why is that? I'd also like to say that some of these movies were very, very influential and still influential up until this day, and other ones were influential in its time or had their moments, or maybe they're grouped in with a certain director. So just keep that in mind. This order isn't going to be an order of the most influential at the top and the least influential at the bottom. The way we're going to break this down is going to be chronologically, or mostly chronologically. So without no further ado, let's get into this one. So the first movie we're going to talk about is actually going to be the first two movies we're going to talk about, because I'm going to kind of group some of these ones together. And the first movie on the list goes back almost 100 years. We're rewinding 94 years to 1931, and we're going to start off by talking about the movie Dracula and Frankenstein. Dracula was directed by Tod Browning and Karl Freund. It stars Bela Lugosi. The story follows the centuries-old Count Dracula as he travels from Transylvania to England, seeking to find his lost love.
I am Dracula.
The second movie on the list is Frankenstein. Came out the same year, 1931, directed by James Whale and starring Boris Karloff. The basic premise is Victor, or Henry Frankenstein, a brilliant but ambitious scientist who creates a monstrous creature from human remains and brings it back to life.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
So the big thing about these two movies is they really were the first in what's called the Universal Monsters movies that were created all through the 1930s, 1940s, and even into the 1950s. There were movies that were still coming out that were following this basic storyline, these basic storylines. So Dracula basically is the birth of vampires in the movie industry. Now, vampires have been around a long time. Dracula started with a novel that was written by Bram Stoker in 1897, and then was adapted into a play, and then a movie, and then multiple movies. We have been having Dracula and vampire movies made ever since 1931. Even last year, Abigail, which was number 4 on my top 10 for 2024, is an adaptation of Dracula. Abigail's basically the daughter of Dracula, and Dracula has a very small role in Abigail. I would say over the years it has influenced Many Halloween costumes, many movies that have come out, even non-Dracula but vampire movies have followed similar lores or similar storylines. Dracula is way up there in popularity, even to this day. So it definitely deserves and has earned the very first spot on the list of the most influential horror movies. And with Frankenstein, I can pretty much say the same thing. Frankenstein is the birth of basically the sci-fi genre, and Frankenstein also was an adaptation of a book written in 1812 by Mary Shelley, adapted into plays, and then a movie. And then many movies, especially in the earlier part of the 19th or the 20th century. There was many movies with Frankenstein, and yet again, even going all the way up until last year, we had an adaptation of a Frankenstein movie. Lisa Frankenstein, released in February 2024, had the whole Frankenstein premise. You know, she brought back a guy by using parts to bring a guy back to life. It was a horror comedy, and it made my most surprising list of 2024. Just still proving how today Frankenstein is still quite relevant, along with the fact that I did hear in my movie research that they are making another Frankenstein movie, which I believe is to be released maybe in the end of this year. So look forward for that one. But here we are again. Frankenstein, well deserved of having a spot in the most influential movies of horror of all time. All right, we're coming to flash forwarding another 30 years, walking into 1960, the most influential director at the time, Alfred Hitchcock, and his movie Psycho, which stars Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates, Janet Leigh as Marion Crane. This movie was extremely influential. This movie had set a new level of acceptability for violence, deviant behaviors, sexualities in American films. It also included the first movie to ever show a flushing toilet. Also, Psycho had nominations for Academy Awards as well. It was nominated for Best Director, which was Alfred Hitchcock, which I would say he's definitely a director I would want to put in the category of most influential, and this was one of his best movies, but he had notably other good movies as well over the years. The Birds, North by Northwest, Vertigo. I mean, he really was a great director, and there's a saying, I've heard it quoted in many documentaries, many videos that I've seen on YouTube, but he made the initial statement that it's not the bang, but it's the anticipation of the bang that gets people scared. And I've noticed that even within myself. You know, I always love the dramatic tension going into a horror movie of the setup, even for a goofy jump scare. It's that setup that is the exciting part to it, and not the actual jump or not the actual bang. Now, sometimes you can have a good bang or a good scare, but it's really the lead up to it. And Alfred Hitchcock really started that trend and made it work. Also, another fun fact that I didn't know about this one was there was a delay in the release of sequels for Psycho. Psycho 2 didn't come out until like 1982 or 83, and then there was Psycho 3, Psycho 4, all through the late 80s into the early 90s. And I thought, why was there such a delay for this? Well, it turns out they waited for Alfred Hitchcock to die before they started pumping out sequels. I guess Alfred Hitchcock only wanted his one idea and not to have endless sequels attached to it. However, Psycho itself was also very influential for it just, with this one, I would say its reputation. I was born many years after it had come out, and there was still talk of it. And the big thing about Psycho when I was a kid was the shower scene. Every time they mentioned the shower scene, it was, you know, taking a shower after this was, it was scary, because in the shower scene, Marion Crane gets attacked by Norman Bates while she's in the shower. And I can tell you this, over the years, every time I'm watching a scary movie and all of a sudden you start off where there's a shower scene, I think, oh, Norman Bates moment, Psycho moment, they're taking this from Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock also had plenty of TV shows that were running for a long time. I think they were mostly prominent in the 60s. The Alfred Hitchcock Hour, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I've seen some of these things. I think he was involved with the Twilight Zone as well. This movie is definitely deserving of being in the list of most notable. It also had, also on a side note, Janet Leigh was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And I guess she was a supporting actress. I mean, everyone always thinks she's the star, but she really was like the Drew Barrymore, like in Scream, you know, where she starts off as where you think she's a star, but that shower scene is actually pretty early on in Psycho, so she's a supporting actress. Also, with the list of sequels that followed in the 80s, they also did do a remake in the late 90s, and that is kind of, again, where I learned about Psycho, or so I actually saw the remake in 1998 with Vince Vaughn before I saw the original. Now, the remake is not even in comparison to the original. I mean, the acting of, I love Vince Vaughn, but there's just no doubt that Norman Bates was played better by Anthony Perkins.
She's as harmless as one of those stuffed birds.
I am sorry. I only felt... It seems she's hurting you. I meant well.
People always mean well. They cluck their thick tongues and shake their heads and suggest oh so very delicately. Of course, I've suggested it myself, but I hate to even think about it. She needs me. It's not as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
They're coming for you, Barbara. The next movie on the list is released in 1968, directed by George Romero. It's Night of the Living Dead. A desperate group of individuals take refuge in an abandoned house when corpses begin to leave the graveyard and search for fresh human bodies to devour. So I wouldn't say that this was the first zombie movie ever made, but it is probably one of the first most successful zombie movies. And this was also an independent movie, an independent filmmaker that started it on his own and made a killing in the box office on this one. And also, fun little fact on this one, because there was some little mishap with the title, this movie was released in 1968 and it is also put straight into public domain. I've just been recently kind of griping about characters that are coming from the public domain, that they're using as serial killers. Here, I never knew that Night of the Living Dead's been public domain this whole time. I could have been making Night of the Living Dead movies and putting them on YouTube if I wanted to. Anyhow, there's a fun fact for you guys. But Night of the Living Dead, obviously the zombies. Zombies is another subgenre that really, after this, took off. So many sequels have been made. I'm sure there's always one in the works where we're going to be dealing with zombies coming. Zombies have had some up and downs. Their lore has been kind of wildly different, where you have the Night of the Living Dead zombies, or you have the World War Z zombies, you have the 28 days later zombies. So zombies have kind of diversified as well, but I love them all. I mean, I loved World War Z. I'm really anticipating 28 Years Later, which is coming out this year. If they ever do another remake or reboot of the Night of the Living Dead, even though sometimes I get tired of these reboots, if done right, this one could be another great one, Night of the Living Dead. In fact, another little fun fact about me, when I was a young kid, I used to play a Night of the Living Dead game with all my neighborhood friends, and it was a great game. I wish I would have created that into a video game. I'd probably be a millionaire right now. But just a great movie over time.
During this crisis, from whatever cause, will come back to life to seek human victims.
I'm telling you, they can't get in here.
Next movie on the list for most influential is also the same year, 1968, a movie directed by Roman Polanski called Rosemary's Baby. This movie is one of the first movies to delve into the satanic cult and have a very satanic themes going on. This movie in its day was very terrifying, and I feel still is a very scary movie. It has survived well over time. It had a sequel, Whatever Happened to Rosemary's Baby, which was in the 1970s. It kind of was a flop on that one. And then last year we had Apartment 7A, which was a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. And also, I love that one. It made my most surprising list. I just was recently discussing that. And just already to say, hey, Rosemary's Baby and its themes are still present in this day and still being influenced by modern day directors. At the time, Rosemary's Baby was extremely controversial due to its themes, mainly on the satanic stuff, and also just Roman Polanski has had issues subsequently since then, which has also led to controversy with the Rosemary's Baby movie. Roman Polanski was, however, nominated for an Academy on this one for Best Adaptation of a Screenplay, and then also another nomination for Ruth Gordon in this one. And notably, another person I'd like to mention who got other awards, Mia Farrow. I think she did a great job with this movie. This must have been difficult for her, but she really did well. I really love that one of those last scenes where she busts in on the cult and was like, "What have you done? What have you done to my baby?" And it's just, you've got to watch it. It's an old school movie, but it is done very well and very scary.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
He has his father's eyes.
What are you talking about? Guy's eyes are normal. What have you done to him, you maniac?
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of
All
Mary.
right, the next one is directed by Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie was released in October of 1974. It is starring Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Partain, Edwin Neal, Jim Saito, and Gunnar Hansen. The basic premise is a group of youngsters come across a family of psychopaths who attack them in a variety of gruesome methods, including a chainsaw, before those who survive escape, still pursued by the saw-wielding Leatherface.
Sally, I hear something. Stop. Stop.
this movie is that first movie that I think gives that grindhouse feel, and another movie where a subgenre has been born and has been mimicked for so long since. I mean, I think of people who have clearly followed in this movie's footsteps: Rob Zombie, Eli Roth, and Sam Raimi. This movie has been the birth of so many horror tropes: kids lost in the woods, creepy serial killer guys, body parts. I mean, this definitely was one of the first movies to be very gory, very extreme. Even the actress who played the main girl went through hell and back to be in this movie. And it's terrifying. I mean, again, when I think about how audience received it back in 1974, I mean, this took, ideas that were in Psycho and just stepped it up even more. And another reason this movie, I feel, has been so influential, I mean, it has a boatload of sequels, a boatload of remakes, a boatload of copycats. I mean, there's just been so many movies since then, and it took a while for them to audiences to get used to themes this thick, this deep, and this crazy. But into the 80s, 90s, and then as we roll even into the 2000s, there was just so many versions of this done. And, some of them have been good, some of them have been great, some of them have been yucky as hell. But, it's a genre that is there, that is very popular. I'm sure, again, like any of these movies that I'm going to mention, if a reboot would come, another reboot or another sequel would come, I'm sure people would be like, yeah, I'm buying a ticket and going to see it. And this one just had such extreme scariness and such extreme terror. I mean, the idea of Leatherface, the real idea of a Leatherface person would just be terrifying to me. If I was in that situation, I don't know how I would have survived. And that is why it makes this movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, worthy of being on the most influential list. Alright, so I jumbled up the years a little bit, but this next one, we're going to rewind back a year. Christmas, 1973. The scariest movie, I think, of all time. The Exorcist.
Hey, where'd this come from?
I found it.
Well, let's both play.
You really don't want me to play?
Captain Howdy said no.
Who's Captain Howdy?
You're gonna die up there.
I need reassignment.
You're the best we've got.
I think I've lost my faith.
Is there someone inside you?
Sometimes.
Who is it?
I don't know.
Is it Captain Howdy?
One of the most profitable horror movies ever made. This is a tale of an exorcism based loosely on actual events, starring Linda Blair, Max von Sydow, Jason Miller, and Ellen Burstyn. If we're still in that day and age where extreme gore, extreme violence, extreme themes weren't really present in the movies, and this one just takes everything and goes for it, goes balls to the wall. I'm gonna be honest with you guys about this. This ain't even a movie that I like that much. I mean, it's kind of like what I said about The Substance. I didn't like The Substance, but I appreciate what a great movie it is and what the director accomplished with that movie, and Demi Moore being so great in that movie. And for me, The Exorcist, had I been, I can't say had I been alive, but because I wasn't. I didn't learn about this movie until I was a young kid, and believe me, it terrified the crap out of me. Coming from a religious background, I slept in my bed with religious artifacts for months after seeing The Exorcist for the first time because I was terrified that a demon would enter my soul.
Please, Mother! Make it stop! It's burning! It's burning!
Do something, Doctor! Please help her!
Oh, please, Mother! Oh, make it stop! He's trying to kill me! Mother! Mother! Make it...
And even though I'm not a big fan of this one, I still can appreciate what this movie is and what this movie has done. and I have watched it multiple times. I mean, I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. I think that initial trauma and that initial scare for me just traumatized me when I was young. And I do have to say, some of the themes that are in this, you know, I'm not sure how I always feel about them. As I've gotten older, I've learned to understand them more and see why they're there. But The Exorcist is clearly notable, influential. I mean, it's on the top of people's lists all the time for most scary. It definitely is the most scariest movie that I can think of. I can't think of anything that scared me any more than this. Influence over the years with the subgenre, it obviously, you know, I mean, I feel like Rosemary's Baby and Exorcist together created this genre of demons, possession, satanic stuff. Exorcist has had a buttload of sequels, some rotten, but some great. And I love The Exorcist 3, by the way. Big fan of that one. Movie's still coming out. Exorcist Believer was just less than 2 years ago. Even though popularity, it was Exorcist Believer wasn't that popular, I actually liked that one a little bit. I mean, maybe because it was like tamed down from the original Exorcist, and that kind of helped me like that one. And not only with the amount of sequels it's had, but the amount of copycats, the amount of exorcism movies. I would say in the last 15 years, we haven't gone a year without some sort of Exorcist movie coming out, some sort of exorcism movie come out. The Exorcist movie also received Academy Awards, and I think those are Academy Award nominations, and well deserved there. Ellen Bernstein, I mean, she does really well. Jason Miller, Max von Sydow, and even little Linda Blair, who's not so little anymore, but wow. I mean, what that girl did and had to go through, I don't know. I would have been terrified in my boots trying to make a movie like that at the age of 12 or 13. Also, The Exorcist, could this really be the first elevated horror movie? I mean, they didn't label movies as elevated horror back then. It was just horror. But when I look back on it now, The Exorcist really is like an elevated horror. Before the elevated horror that we are consumed with in this day and age, maybe that's really where elevated horror started. So at the end of the day, that is why The Exorcist is on this list. It's probably up there as more of the higher end of most influential movies of all time in the horror genre.
I believe we should begin. Avoid conversations with the demon. The demon is a liar. He will mix lies with the truth.
Why, Dimmy?
To attack us. Do not listen.
That thing isn't my daughter.
It is he who commands you. The power of Christ compels you.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
So I'll be honest, The Exorcist probably was my least favorite movie when I was a kid. But the next movie we're going to talk about is my most all-time favoriteest movie. Still is to this day the best movie I've seen. And this one might be a little bit, how did this one make this list? But it's going to make the list, and that is 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg, Jaws.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Jaws is a horror movie, or Jaws isn't a horror movie, and I don't know if I would classify it really as a horror movie, but it definitely is horrifying and has horrifying themes going on in it. I mean, people getting eaten by sharks, that's pretty scary. Jaws, notable. I mean, Steven Spielberg's an amazing director. He's gonna make this list again. He just did so great with this movie, and I think with this one he took ideas that he learned from prior directors, maybe i.e. a little bit of Alfred Hitchcock. The whole way Jaws was done, and partly because of the struggles Jaws had being made, it was very difficult to film a shark in the water movie, but the whole thing about the shark being hidden a lot, just very well hidden, and just kind of the fin, the nose, you know, the first scene, you don't even see the shark, and it's beyond terrifying. This movie's so influential. I mean, literally at the time, Jaws has set records. I mean, Jaws was notably the first blockbuster movie, but also influenced people. Like, people literally were scared to go in the water. And I can tell you, over the years and even up until this day, last year at the beach, I will be in the water, deep out, and sometimes if I'm the furthest one out, I might just be like thinking, and where I go, it's not common for sharks, but like I'm sitting there humming the Jaws theme in my head. And I'm looking around. I'm like, I mean, people just didn't want to go in the water after this one. And Jaws, another movie that had a boatload of sequels. And I can tell you from growing up with this franchise, as a kid, I love the sequels. At a point in time when I was really young, some of the sequels I favored over the original. But of course now, as a full-grown adult, Jaws is the one. I mean, I love the characters in Jaws. Martin Brody, Quint, Hooper, the mayor, even Ellen. I mean, these are really, really great characters, and that's what made Jaws so great. It was the blend of the great characterization with this scary element of Jaws, of the shark coming to the town of Amity and eating people. And then there was this.
You were on the Indianapolis?
What happened? Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. He was coming back from the island of Tinian to Leyte, just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. 1,100 men went into the water. The vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret, no distress signal had been sent. They didn't even list us overdue for a week. Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tight groups. You know, it's kind of like old squares in a battle, like you see in a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo. And the idea was, shark comes to the nearest man, that man he starts pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then... oh, then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red. In spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and they rip you to pieces. You know, by the end of that first dawn, lost 100 men. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many men. They average 6 an hour. On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland. Baseball player, bosun's mate. I thought he was asleep. Reached over to wake him up. Bobbed up and down in the water. It was like a kind of top. Upended. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist. Noon the 5th day, Mr. Hooper, a Lockheed Ventura saw us. He swung in low and he saw us. He was a young pilot, a lot younger than Mr. Hooper anyway. He saw us and he come in low, and 3 hours later, a big fat PBY comes down and started to pick us up. You know, that was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again. So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Jaws is noticeable for the one big jump scare it has with the boat scene, Ben Gardner boat scene where Richard Dreyfuss is swimming underwater and he finds the head of one of the fishermen that was killed off by the shark. And I'll tell you what, wow, that jump scare got me. It still gets me sometimes, maybe not as much anymore because I almost have a time to when it's going to come when I go like this and cover my eyes. But Jaws, I mean, it's a legacy. I mean, it's my all-time favoriteest movie. It beats even this movie that I'm wearing. I mean, I don't know if in my lifetime anything will be released where Jaws, that would be Jaws. So legacy with Jaws. Jaws definitely had a legacy as far as its sequels, but also shark movies. I mean, Jaws is the birth of a shark movie, the go-to shark movie. Every shark movie that's come out since is compared to Jaws, or is it even near good as Jaws? I think there's been some good shark movies that I personally like. I did like Deep Blue Sea. I also liked The Meg. I liked Shark Night. But the shark genre also can be real bad. There's been some really rough shark movies, and I feel like ever since CGI took over the shark, it's just, yeah. So I mean, this genre can be great, but it can also be terrible. But Jaws will live on, and definitely warrants Jaws to be on this list. And I really would call this a horror adjacent movie because it is kind of a creature feature, but it counts. Please like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell, all that jazz.